There's a line in the movie The Matrix, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, where Agent Smith has what's his name? Morpheus tied up and is interrogating him. And the other agents or bots or whatever you want to call it leave the room. And he takes his earpiece out and he talks about how he realized that humans weren't really mammals, that they were viruses. And he went on to further describe how they're like viruses. He also says something in passing about them being a cancer, about how they consume all resources in an area and then move to the next. And I think a virus is a bad characterization of what humans are, because viruses are alien or foreign. They come into the body through foreign means. They eat up the body and they leave. Or they just die, obviously, once the body either whether the body fights them off or whether the body dies. I think humans are more like a cancer. I think that's an accurate way to put it. So Agent Smith was right. Humans are cancer. And I know it's a little bit of a hard allegory to think about, because cancer has touched so many of us. My brother died of cancer. My grandfather's died of cancer. I've had numerous relatives that have had cancer. It's tough. It's a tough thing to deal with or to talk about or to even say. The word cancer carries a stigma with it that we just think evil. Let's talk about what cancer is. What is it? Well, it's a disease, but it's a very unique disease in the fact that it comes from your human tissue. We don't catch cancer. It grows inside of us from once healthy tissue. And what happens is, it's so basically, before I start with that, is that like cancer, we're not a virus. We didn't start as a disease. We didn't start as something that kills the host. We started as healthy tissue that's part of a system that helps the planet survive. Just like cancer was once part of healthy tissue that helps humans survive. So how are we like cancer? Well, how does cancer move and spread? Well, it metastasizes, consumes, spreads to another part of the body. Once it metastasizes and it's sending things out to all parts of the body, it's pretty much over for you. And think about how humans have done that. So once we were part of an ecosystem, we were hunters, we probably cut down the unhealthy animals or the kind of culled herds and helped contribute to the ecosystems in the past. And now we are living outside of that ecosystem and even being a detriment to those ecosystems. And we spread over the face of the earth. We're everywhere. So let's talk about that a little bit. So let's just talk about humans as if they were healthy cells. They're just kind of moving around, and maybe not even moving around, maybe just kind of being, in engaging in the cellular development and the cellular growth that happens when you're growing and you're becoming an adult or growing older. I can't remember exactly when it is that the cells stop dividing, but it's, I think, in your 30s. That means you stop growing, but sometimes the cells keep on growing, and that's where we run into trouble. But let's take a look at what could cause humans to grow unchecked. So we need a couple different factors, just like cancer needs some factors. So cancer needs hereditary predisposition, maybe some outside factors, and there you have it. Being exposed to certain substances, that type of thing, that can always cause cancer. But primarily, it's your heredity, genetics, right, in your DNA. So the different factors for the human cancer, right? The human menace, the human problem. It started back in the Fertile Crescent, back in Mesopotamia, in about 10,000 years ago, and it started with this agricultural revolution, which probably happened quite by mistake. There had been agricultural revolutions before that. There had been agricultural gains and discoveries before that. So why was the one that began this population explosion, why was this any different? There's a couple different reasons. It lasted long enough to coincide with the religious revolution, the rise of the god kings. Now there was either a causative relationship or a correlation. Maybe it was a coincidence, probably not, but it was around long enough for people to decide that we needed the salvationist religion to tie people to our causes and to give us this morality. Right? Even let's go back and go back to one of the earliest empires in the world, the known world, and that was the Assyrian Empire, who took root in the Fertile Crescent. The Assyrians reigned for probably 1,000 plus years with their empire. Once the agricultural revolution started, then that gave rise to their empire, gave rise to their dominance, because they were the most highly organized of the people, and they called the shots, essentially. So what happened is that they used their king as their religious figurehead. So he had a divine right to rule, and they convinced everyone of this. What's more than that is it's not. People think, well, religion is just there to keep the people in line. Well, that's not just it. Religion is there to give cause to your actions, and give cause to the actions of kingdoms, and give legitimacy. So the Assyrians were the bad guys of the early world. They spread, they murdered, they sacked, they assimilated, they did a bunch of nasty things to everybody. But if they could not legitimize that with a moral compass or a moral moral justification, then it wouldn't have lasted 1,000 years, or it wouldn't have lasted a couple thousand years, or 500. It's like 500. Like the Neo-Assyrian Empire lasted for like 500 years or something like that. It wouldn't have lasted that long if they didn't have some kind of justification for what they were doing. If they didn't say that our king is God and he can do what he wants and this is right and good, then they would have tired of that and they would have gone back to hunting and gathering, doing what was best for the tribes, doing what was best for the individual tribes. So that's the effect of religion on the agricultural revolution, how we came to be what we are today. People think of it, skeptics think of it as religion as a way to manipulate the people into doing what you do in this life with promises in the next, but that's not it. It's this edict, this mandate that this has to be done at any cost. God has ordained this to happen, and we have to be his instrument or her instrument or whatever. That is the true evil of organized religion, is how it gives wings to our moral justification of slaughter and expansion, proliferation, and eventually, murder, brutality, assimilation, wiping out Holocaust of so many people. And I did speak a little bit about Hitler in our last my last talk, and that rings true again. The Assyrians essentially were the Nazis of the ancient world, and the Nazis wouldn't have done what they did if they didn't feel like they were doing it for a reason, or they didn't feel like they were fulfilling some sort of prophecy or doing something that was utterly religious in nature, supernatural, metaphysical, whatever you want to call it. So, like I said, if crimes are committed for no reason, then they're just crimes to be punished with and dealt with as we see fit. But if crimes are committed in the name of God, and we use this moral justification of our actions, then these things are to be done at any cost. And that is, I'm not going to say evil because I don't really believe in evil, but it's not good for the survival of the human species. It's very bad for the survival of the human species. So that's basically what I judge things on, is like, was this going to help survival or inhibit survival? And please do not mix proliferation and this explosion in population with survival, because it's not survival, it's something completely different. So, getting back to what we were talking about, when do we see the signs of this cancer? When do we see it happening? When do we see this coming? When do we see our ultimate demise coming? We've seen signs. There's signs everywhere. Some people will deny it. Some people, it's like the people who deny that global warming is happening. Well, yeah, there's probably people who deny that there's anything wrong with them when there's obviously something wrong, because they really don't want to deal with it. So they can't imagine, dealing with cancer, so they don't go to the doctor. It just makes things worse and makes their end a lot quicker. The very end makes their chances of survival almost nil. So when do we see the signs? There's no way of knowing. Daniel Quinn puts it eloquently in saying that we are like a skydiver, right? Or we're like we've jumped off a cliff. We're like the person, these people that invented these elaborate flying bicycles back in the turn of the century, and hoping that it would be a some sort of air machine that could fly. And then we ride it off a cliff, and we don't hit and we don't crash right away because it's a long way down. So we think we're flying, and we're not going to know that we're not flying until we see the ground coming up on us, and maybe we don't see that yet. So that's something that we have to look for, and global warming is part of that. Go in there. Dad's doing something. So who knows? We're not going to know for sure until it's coming up on us and it's too late. Next thing, and what's going to happen? There was a philosopher, Malthus, who said, who prophesied the doom of the Western world because of the failure of this agricultural revolution. It's true that there was never famine, wholesale and widespread famine, until the agricultural revolution. And after that, it's if your crops fail, then sometimes you die off. But Daniel Quinn is very, very clear in stating, unlike Malthus, who was concerned with the failure of modern agricultural methods, he's concerned with their continued success. He's not worried about famine, he's worried about something else. And look around us. We band-aid things, we patch things, we have programs for recycling. But what does that do? Maybe it does a little bit, but that's really trying to stem the flow of the river with sticks. What are you doing? Desmond, stop. So, okay. So, instead of trying to stem the flow of the river with sticks, we need to build a dam, or we need to figure out how to redivert this river. And it's going to take some work. But in order to redivert the river, we have to admit that the river is killing us. If we don't do that, then there's nothing we can do. There's nothing that can save us. So we have to change our thought process. We have to change the way we think about the world. Now, maybe technology can help us to a certain degree in stemming the tide of environmental issues like pollution and global warming, and we can do little things, but paired with that, we need to think differently. We need to think about our place on this planet differently. We need to think of ourselves as a cancer. I know it's going to be hard to do, but we need to think of ourselves as a cancer right now in the current state that we are. We need to heal ourselves. We need to cure ourselves. And I'm not saying we need to kill everybody off, but we need to stop growing at the rates that we're growing. We need to stem the tide. We need to, and that begins with thought. That begins with the acceptance of the fact that, yes, we are growing unchecked. Maybe not in the first world, but in the worst places, in the third world, where they don't have the infrastructure to handle things. So, throughout these talks, that's going to be the resounding answer to what do we do? Well, we change the way we think. Once we change the way we think, we can change the way we act. But changing the way we act, if we don't really think of it, if we don't really put things in perspective, we're never going to continue to act. So anyway, using this analogy or this allegory to cancer, I've had discussions with people in the past, and like I said, this is a very controversial subject. Cancer takes a terrible toll on its victims, and God willing, hopefully, it never takes its toll on me or my family. but we have to think of cancer maybe in a different way. That's not to say we don't want to find a cure for it. We don't want to find a way to eradicate it. But if we had a cure for it, we need to, would that be something would that be a good thing? Thousands of people die from cancer a day. If we cured cancer and everybody lived, what would that be like? Obviously as humans we need to figure out a way to preserve our species, and that's part of it. But it's hard. We need to fight against extinction. That's one of our ways of fighting against extinction. However, is it really fighting against extinction? If we cure every disease and everybody's immortal, what does that say about our proliferation? What does that say about our birth rate? What do we have to do? We have to have less children. We have to we have to do something. And in the third world it's particularly bad, because in the third world we continue to, and this is going to sound really bad, but we continue to feed this growth. We continue to send aid to starving countries, and that is the humanitarian thing to do, is to stem the suffering of others, and that's a very good thing. However, it's causing more suffering because it causes the next generation to suffer. So how do we fix that? Here's a good solution. Well, let's send infrastructure. Let's send engineers. Let's send doctors. Let's send scientists to the third world. Let's send builders. Let's send people who can build an infrastructure, who can teach people about the rest of the world, and maybe teach about birth control, and teach and start these conversations younger and younger and younger. Teach kids how to take care of themselves and survive. I know Montessori schools are a good example of that. I went to a Montessori school myself. With it, you kind of learn, in it you kind of learn how to take care of yourself, and we don't really learn how to take care of ourselves anymore. We're kind of living in this bubble, but that's a talk for another day. I'm just kind of trying to spitball things that we can do to stem this tide, instead of looking to fix the symptoms on the back end. So yeah, the ramifications of a cure for cancer, personally, it would be bittersweet. On one hand, we've cured cancer. It's one of the worst things that we can think of. On the other hand, hundreds of thousands of more people are going to be on this earth every single day. So that can be a bad thing too. So, I don't want to prophesize the end, but how much longer really can we inflict or impose upon this earth, with the amount of people? I'm not talking about pollution. I'm not talking about waste. I'm not talking about the nuclear or the nuclear solution or whatever. This is it's a population problem. That's the root cause. So we have to figure out a way to stem the growth of our population. And a lot of that is instead of sending food to countries that are starving, we should send other things. We should send educators with food, obviously, to feed those who are starving now, but not an indiscriminate amount of food that allows their population to grow, because humans will grow no matter what. If the food supply is high enough, the humans will grow to meet it. The population will grow to meet that food supply. That's just the way things are. So What do we? Yeah, like I said, what do we do? Well, like I said, infrastructure in third world. Thinking. Well, it all starts with thinking differently about the problem, and thinking of humans as more of a cancer than as an entitled species that owns the planet. I don't even want to think of ourselves as stewards of the planet. Stewards would indicate that we are the guardians, and really we aren't. We shouldn't have to be. What we should be is just part of it. We should just think about what helps with our survival. Well, there's a lot of things that help with our survival, and it's not this unchecked population growth that's going to contribute to our extinction eventually. So, thinking differently about issues and solving problems, thinking differently about our place in the world, and thinking of what we've become as maybe something that wasn't meant to happen and is bad, right? There's a lot of different outcomes or a lot of different symptoms of the society we live in, and it can all be explained by the fact that we probably weren't prepared to live this way. All of our history is 95% of our history is living in a completely different way, and then the last 5% of human existence, we're kind of thrust into this. I don't even know what to call it. It's just like a duplication machine, right? So anyway, I hope I've given you something to think about. Like I said, it's a touchy subject. Humans as cancer is something that we don't really want to think about. We don't even really want to say the word cancer, and people will probably be like, "How dare you? This person close to me died from cancer." But it's not a sacred cow. We can talk about it, and we can talk about how we become like it, and how we can stop being like it. Anyway, I leave you with that thought, and I hope you got something out of it. Until next time, and I'll do another one of these, and it'll be fun. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. I appreciate Jeff for giving me the opportunity to post this, and until we meet again, au revoir.